everybody. So here we are with another episode of Arise, a Simple Story. This is part 8 of the game, and we had just finished Ashes and Fruit, and now we are making our way into what is essentially part 8. I believe it's part 7 of my playlist Let's Play series here, of this indie game puzzle platformer called Arise. And I've already doted enough on what I like about the game and what I think it does really well. I experienced some more difficulty in this level with some of the time lapse mechanics again. In Ashes, it was kind of the yin and the yang between the fire and the phantoms, and in this level, you'll see me struggle with that quite a bit towards the end of the level. And so, our hero here, our protagonist, kind of left Ashes looking into the sunlight after it seems like they lost their child, and in this level, it looks like we know from the very beginning where we're trying to end, right? And I like that um, the level Solace opens with our end goal in mind, and whether or not, even though our wife is seemingly weeping into our hands, it still gives us something to shoot for. So here I am, just kind of checking the time lapse function. Right away, you can see me missing the jump. I'm experimenting with where I need to stand in order to be close to my jump off point. Once I rewind here, and it's definitely not here. So I tried to make my jump, and I eventually figured it out. There's several moments in this level. Again, keep missing the jump key there. There's several moments in the level where um, I seemingly don't really know where to go. You're gonna see me get to these kind of rotating boulders, and using the anchor system with some trees, I kind of sling myself around for a little bit before realizing that I have to go to the other side of one of these boulders. But interesting mechanic here, uses the anchor system, and we're kind of piecing together our route, so to speak. And so we grab on, we snag, and we pull, and kind of clamp together, or kind of piece together these different floating islands using the shift key there, and make our way from island to island here. And so you're going to see me do that for a little bit. None of these statues that we see coming up trigger a cutscene like you saw in some of the other ones, like particularly in Ashes, where every time we saw one, it would kind of trigger a cutscene of sorts. The only cutscene here is the one at the end. So not necessarily as a cinematic in terms of breaking the gameplay, but obviously the views are great. Kind of this space void dreamscape that we're in here. You see right away we use the ether to travel. The music again is great in this level. I particularly enjoy the fact that they save the here I go, going the wrong direction here, throw myself out into the void. But I particularly how they save the up tempo part of the song for when you're kind of floating through here, and you get to witness kind of the awe and the scale of the level. So I make my way here from island to island. I'm using the rewind feature to kind of put myself closer to the edge, and it's pretty simple going through. Initially, I thought I was supposed to go up the flowers here, but you don't end up using these large stalks at all. I wonder if maybe you do, chasing the collections, and it looks like maybe I would have had I. If you look off to the left there, I missed that. I actually didn't see that in my playthrough here, but I do as I watch it back. So I suppose there's a lot of the off the beaten path routes here that I could have explored to get to some of the collectibles, the collectible memories. And I think I grabbed maybe one of them early on, and I try to chase another one here coming up, but but fell too far. So it's kind of if one thing I will say, just in terms of how it's telegraphed, it doesn't seem to be very clear how far you can drop um, and fall to your death. Sometimes you can fall fairly far and be okay, like right here. You kind of get back up, and other times, you kind of drop off a ledge to what seems like pretty a pretty shallow jump, and you kind of collapse. And so, not sure what the issue is there. You're gonna see the wall hold mechanic come back here, and we're gonna kind of pull ourselves up and around here. I don't even think we have to go around. Yeah, I sling myself off again. You can tell I'm a pro after eight parts of this game. I've really mastered all of the mechanics. Um, but I like the mixture of elements here. We see mushrooms. We see the flowers. We see the large sunflowers. The anchor system comes into play. We've got a little bit of the rocky terrain. The aether flow, the magical flow is back as well. You even see some of the trees come back. The tree as anchors. A lot of mixture of that. See, that's the part I was talking about with the drop there. Not really clear. Maybe if I would have dropped down below the mushroom, I probably would have survived that. But yeah, so a huge mixture of assets here. I'm just trying to figure out where to go to make sure I traverse this correctly. I didn't want to have to backtrack a lot here, so I paused a few times and just made sure I kind of got my bearings, so to speak. I was kind of proud of myself here. I got this in one go. I saw the bee. Again, an element from one of the earlier levels that allowed me to make it over to one of the sunflowers. So here I go. The other thing you may have noticed is that there seems to be kind of a zero gravity effect with some of the jumps, where you get a little floaty in your movement, and that's not always the case. It doesn't seem to be very consistent depending on where you're jumping from and to. So here I go navigating the sunflowers, and I'm sure if I would have went left here, I bet there's a collectible in that direction. I haven't been doing the collectibles in this playthrough. I'm really just trying to enjoy the base game without any extras. So here I am making it to a larger platform and then piecing this together. So initially I thought, hey, here's my goal and I must be near the end. And yet this is probably only a third of the way through the level. We have quite a bit to go. You can see we kind of rejoin our spouse there laying in the grass with the kite. Some elements you saw earlier in the series. And so we jump back into the ether flow. I think I missed it initially. And I don't miss it, but you'll see I'll rewind here in a second and actually throw myself out of the magical flow here and have to redo this part. But swimming. I'm swimming just like you see in all the other levels. Again, I can't say enough. This game, I'm not really sure how they were designing these levels and what kind of eye in the sky. Here I go, sending myself to the void. What kind of eye in the sky view they had when they were designing this, but man, it is just so well put together in terms of the set pieces and what you're able to view as you play the game. So again, trying to get my bearings. I think I actually missed this the second time in, and I do. Look at that. I knew it was coming. You should know by now. We're not going for a no death speed run here, 80%. We're really just trying to brute force our way through a simple story. I'm sorry for any of the speedrunners out there. This would be an interesting game to speedrun, and I actually want to look that up after uploading this episode. With it being a platformer and having pretty predictable levels, I'm interested to see how a speedrunner could navigate using the time lapse feature and like nailing the anchors and the jumps. I'd also be interested to see if maybe a speedrunner could do speedrunning, like collecting all the collectibles. What that time would look like. And so this is where the boulders, you see the boulder with the tree on it. I start using it as an anchor, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm kind of slingshot myself around and perhaps get closer to our destination there. And you can see I'm trying to do that, but what I find out is that I'm actually supposed to let myself go and walk along the the boulder here and grab onto an anchor from another tree on another boulder, the one off to the right here. I don't yet figure that out because I'm sitting here trying to maneuver it, make sure I don't slip. Um, I'm sure you could slip off of these. There were a couple of times where I thought I was going to, but I didn't end up doing so. So this is the boulder that I actually mess around with the most. I'm trying to figure out how to get further to the right hand side of the screen because I think that's where I have to go. But I'm really actually supposed to be at the bottom of this boulder and grabbing onto the bottom tree, and I kind of sling myself back to the other rock and eventually end up back on this rock. Um, and realize I can kind of um, uh, cause the anchor reticle to spawn. You have to be within a certain distance of the anchor for it to show up, and you can tell I can't quite see it being on this other side of the boulder. So yeah, I kind of make the mistake of putting myself back on the other boulder, and I'm fully exhausting how far the rewind and the fast forward goes. Um, but again, this looks great, right? With the light shafts and the darkness and whatever these crystalline, I don't know if they're petals or um, kind of floating through the air. It really creates a dreamscape that I find pretty interesting, especially compared to the other environments we've seen. They were all beautiful in their own right. Some of the naturey ones I thought were a little simple in their design. A little maybe cookie cutter. But there's a lot of bespoke levels in here. This one, I think of the design of the river area, the swamp area with the flower petals. I thought that one was really awesome. And this one's probably my favorite out of all of them so far. Um, so here we go. I think I finally figured out, and I'm trying to sling myself, right? I'm thinking, well, this is kind of like a catapult, right? I must have to like let go at a certain point and end up on the right island. And yet, you've seen me struggle here for several minutes now, trying to figure out which of these boulders is the one that's going to get me to the right. And so I see that there's two trees on the other boulder. Again, I'm trying not to slip off, trying to figure out if I can even slip off at all. I finally grabbed the collectible. Might as well, right? Might as well. So, it also gives me a save point. Interesting that those could be utilized as checkpoints. I imagine if you grab those collectibles, it could be a new save spawn. And here we go. Here I figure out the other tree. I grab it, hopefully, and then I just walk. I think I end up walking around once I get the anchor back. So let's see if I figure this out. God, I hope so, because I've been telling you how I've struggled. I might as well show you how I find the solution. So, oddly enough, this is only the first part at which I struggled. The back half of this level has another area where I really could not figure out how to utilize the mechanics to my advantage. I actually had to combine the time lapse mechanic and the I think kind of the pause mechanic that kind of stops everything, and you'll see that in a little bit. But this with how beautiful it is, this level is fairly benign in terms of the threats. Absent the level with the phantoms, the game doesn't really offer you any threat to life outside of your own mistakes in terms of movement or jumps, um, or missteps. And I like that. It's consistent if anything, right? I'd be interested to see a game like this, maybe a sequel that included some more dangerous puzzling outside of falling to your death, which can be frustrating in itself I think for anybody who doesn't really enjoy platformers. But I don't play a lot of platformers, and Arise is a game that I really do enjoy. I wonder, what kind of difficulties could arise from adding some other threats to the level beyond just you didn't jump far enough kind of situation. So this part of the level is probably the part that I found the easiest. There's not the jumps are pretty predictable. The places at which I'm going to kind of jump across and meet the other platforms are pretty predictable. I thought that this one was really cool. You jump on this side, and you have to jump across and then pull it back together and then climb using the handhold. So it takes me a second to figure that out. I kind of think I try to go around the other side to see if I climb up, to see if the camera orientation needs to change, but it doesn't, and I eventually make my way back here. I just have to kind of get the two spaces closer together, and I eventually figure it out. Don't worry. Don't worry. And again, I bet with all these collectibles, all these other islands, I could probably navigate to. I imagine, but I'm just kind of again trying to get to the end of the level. You can see I keep the goal in the middle part of my screen, and I like that too about the design. Your goal is always very apparent, right? And it almost taunting you when you fail, which I think is kind of cool. So we climb up, and I actually think I miss the handhold here, going up to the top. I think I let go of the shift key. You'll see me fall off here. Yeah. Then I eventually make my way back up. So here we go, trying again. You know, I can't say it enough, but there's not a lot to the game, but there's a lot to the game. The visuals have their own appeal. The platforming can be at times difficult. This visual storytelling with no voice acting, with no text, is brilliant. I think. I was reading kind of tangentially to the series here that they based the main character off of Clint Eastwood, or maybe a role that Clint Eastwood played, which I thought was pretty interesting, in that he used mostly like his emotions, his emotive behaviors and movements, and so that's where a lot of the the deep expressive moments come from in terms of inspiration. So this is the part that you're going to see me struggle with quite a bit. This second ether part. So we make it through these kind of forested islands, back to some petals. We haven't seen these in a few levels, but this part's pretty short. Hop on the petals, hop on the flowers, and then use the time-lapse mechanic to take us a little bit closer to our destination. And again, I found this area fairly simple to traverse, which is nice. It's a mixture of kind of some thinkers and some that just are more apparent. And here I go floating. I must have floated here for at least 2 or 3 minutes, trying to figure out first how can I move forward. So you can see a couple of times I just kind of stopped moving, and then where do I drop off? And you have to actually rewind enough and then pause and drop yourself into another aether flow. But you can see a few times here I get all the way to the end of the aether flow and I just sling myself into the void. It happens more than once, but I'm actually gonna eventually come back and drop right there and catch that other aether flow. But I thought this was pretty cinematic. I thought I was gonna catch that other aether flow at the bottom left there, but I completely missed it. But I guess that would have just taken me in a circle anyway. And so here we go, second time around. I can already tell you guys I'm going to fail several times here. But I do, again, we're right there near our goal. We must be fairly close. I didn't predict that this would take us any further away like that first jump did. We were kind of deceptively close. We had it in our sights. And this is kind of where I begin to experiment with, do I need to pull this aether path down closer? And I had not yet figured out how I was going to drop myself. It's an interesting spot to put a collectible there. I think you actually have to drop and catch that, and then catch yourself back in the aether flow so that you don't fall into the void. I didn't. I do not end up catching that, but again, struggling here. I think I throw myself out of the aether flow at least one or two more times. But again, while we're figuring it out here, very cinematic. Interested to see if anybody else has played this. I know, it's got pretty positive reviews on Steam. I consider this an indie game. They haven't made a sequel, although the company's seemingly made a few other games. And who knows, maybe someday I'll try that out. But I'm really enjoying this series. I thought this was the second to last level. However, I think there's probably two more after this. I saw in the achievements there's maybe a level 10 that I need to work my way through. So, which I'm glad, because it doesn't seem like the story's over yet. It seems like there's a little bit more hope and optimism for our main character to experiment with, or experience, sorry. So, glad we caught ourselves there. So, we did figure out we need to drop ourselves, but I had yet to figure out how to stop time and just drop into that bottom aether flow. And by the way, if that's not what you should call it, I haven't looked it up, so if you all call that something different, let me know. Here we go. See if I'm probably going to sling myself out again. And I do. There it goes again. I'm nothing if not consistent. Okay. Let's see if I make it. And this is me contemplating my next move. You can just feel me thinking as I suspend myself and float along in this river of magic. And so, while we're floating along here, trying to get our lives together, I'm interested to see if anybody might suggest a game like this. I wouldn't mind doing another puzzle platformer. I'm not really into the more aggressive ones where it's mostly about speed. One of the reasons I liked Arise was because it was simple, and it was a slower paced game, and it had a story to tell, and there wasn't a lot of text or dialogue that made it cheesy or anything. I think Arise is a game who they really knew what kind of game they want to create, and they knew, they stayed true to the identity of the game throughout the entire game. I didn't feel like any of the levels or any of the moments felt disjointed. I thought, everything, flows pretty well together. Outside of the levels probably just being, a level designer having fun, I don't really see a lot of cohesion in terms of the play space. I wouldn't call this like a unified, one unified space, like a in-game universe, so to speak. But I did find them very interesting. If I learn that they're somehow attached to, his journey through this made up world, then I'm happy to be wrong. But that'd be my only critique, is that in all of this great visual storytelling, there's not really a lot of cohesion seemingly between each of the levels, and that's probably where the gameplay comes in. It is a game, so let it be a game, and maybe I shouldn't criticize it for that. But God, let this be the moment that I figure this out, please. You can see me, I drop, and I do catch myself. So, wow, we finally figured it out. We're pushing ourselves along, and we land on a pedal. And isn't it fitting? This is where we had that moment where we reunited in that the other night level. We were to pull ourselves together here. Really great cinematic way with the light shafts to end the level. So another one under our belt. Arise, A Simple Story. You can see me yet again struggling with the mechanic, trying to pull our spouse towards us with a sweet, sweet embrace. And there's us with our spouse, staring, enjoying the moment. What a great way to end the level. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I really did. I'll see you again for the next episode coming up. Tune in next time, guys. Take care.